Support comes from Thomas Nelson Community College, now becoming Virginia Peninsula Community College, the first choice to start a career. Gain skills in fields like cybersecurity and education. More at tncc.edu.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. On today's Another View, being an African American and being qualified to do the job. Why is there a seemingly automatic assumption that a black person seeking to fulfill a high-profile position is not qualified? It's just one of the topics before our AV Roundtable. Norfolk City Treasurer Daun Hester, new AV pundit Dr. Veleka Gatling, one of the originals, Wil LaVeist, and guess what? He's back. Community activist Bill Thomas. The Another View Roundtable. It's coming up next, right after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African American perspective, this is Another View.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Tonight is the night. Our next Race Let's Talk About It town hall. The topic, the education gap between black and white students, and what we as a community and as a society can do to bridge the gap. Tonight's town hall is at 6:30. It's virtual, but we need you to register. Now, there's still time to go to whro.org/events and sign up. It's free and everyone is welcome. Now, this virtual town hall is a part of the Beneath the Surface grant received by WHRO Public Media. In full disclosure, I am a member of the Beneath the Surface Advisory Group and will receive no compensation from the grant for hosting this town hall. I look forward to having a great conversation with you this evening. So today it's the second Thursday of the month, which means it's time for the Another View Roundtable. So let's meet our pundits. She's the treasurer for the city of Norfolk. Welcome always, Daun Hester. Hey, Daun, how you doing?
I am wonderful. Hello, everybody.
Glad to have you with us. He's a journalist, author, political pundit, and media consultant, and one of our original Roundtable pundits, Dr. Wil LaVeist. Hey, Wil, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Always a pleasure to be back in my Virginia home.
We appreciate you being here with us, too. And she's brand new to the Another View Roundtable, Director of Diversity Initiatives and Assistant Professor at Old Dominion University, Dr. Veleka Gatling. Hello, Veleka. How are you?
For inviting me to be among all of this greatness.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and you're a brave woman. Thank you. And I know there's some of you out there who are so very excited because he's back, and he also is an Another View original, our community activist and our conservative voice, Mr. Bill Thomas. How are you, Mr. Thomas?
I am fine. It's a great day in the United States of America, and I'm glad I'm here. God bless America.
Well, we are happy that you are here with us. So let me ask a question of you guys right off the bat. Have all of you been told at some point in growing up that you needed to be twice as good as white candidates who may be applying for the same job that you were going after? And if you didn't hear it directly, did your parents hear it? Let's start with you, Veleka, since you're brand new.
Thank you. I will take that charge. So I'm actually at Old Dominion University right now. I started my career in Norfolk Public Schools as an elementary school teacher at Little Creek Elementary School, and was very excited when I rose to the ranks of being an assistant principal. A stone's throw away, right there next to you, in between where you and I are at Launchmont Elementary School. Mm-hmm. And so to your point, I was told that I was placed at that school during that time by some folks because I went to a white institution. For higher learning. I went to James Madison, and so they felt that it would be helpful for me to be there because I knew how to interact with white people. That was very alarming for me, right? I went to Green Run High School. I went to the governor's school, so I had a lot of experiences. I was also told when you go on the interview, at that time, I wear contact lenses. I was also told you probably need to wear your glasses so you can look a little bit older. So it was not just about the color of my skin. It was also about the way that I looked, my youthfulness, I guess. I was also told that you might want to wear certain types of clothing versus the types of clothes that I guess I wanted to wear. But my parents raised me really well. But the thing that really got me was you'd be a great fit there because you went to a white institution.
Well, what about you? Have you ever had that experience where they said you have to be twice as good in order to get the job?
No, never. So, I mean, absolutely. I mean, many of the listeners may know that I'm actually the first Black Metro columnist, Daily Press. And so the Daily Press, more than 100-year-old, institution, paper. So that just kind of gives you a sense of all of the Black culture and journalists that had come through the Hampton Roads area that here in the early 2000s, I arrived, and I'm the first. I couldn't have been the first that was qualified or the first that was able to take on that role. So, I mean, it's something that I have had to deal with my entire life. And so I was actually told very young by my parents that when in elementary school, because I'm a child of busing, so I was told, you go into these schools with predominantly white kids, you need to be twice as good. These teachers are already going to have a low expectation of you. So, I went with that kind of mindset and got in the classrooms and found that the white kids in many ways were not any more intelligent, or a lot of times they weren't that bright. And so found the same thing, fast forward, entering into a newsroom. You all know that. No, these people are not so intelligent and so remarkable in terms of their abilities. And so it definitely is an extra burden that you have to carry. And I was told to carry it, had been carrying it since elementary school. And now I'm north of 50. Yeah.
Wow. What about you, Bill?
Oh, absolutely. But the relevancy of the question is kind of needless today because America has evolved. But my very first day in America's public school systems, right outside the fort where we lived, as a 5-year-old, I went to go to school where my white friends went to school and told we were at the wrong school. And I heard people that were our neighbors and friends and things, some were upset about it and others weren't. Y'all at the wrong school. You're at the wrong place. And it still happens. It's a challenge. We still did very, very well and do what we had to do. I look at it as a learning experience and a challenge to never trust people that say they're going to do something, or a constitution that says all people are created equal. So I understand that, but more to relevancy to my colleague from ODU, maybe less than 15 years ago, we were walking across the campus of ODU with at that time Delegate Selma Drake, and my kids got separated from my two boys. And the campus police were all rode up to them and asked them, "Where's your ID? Have any ID? You can't walk on the campus." And they went to that school over there, and we lived in that neighborhood, so it really doesn't matter. And today, I don't think anything else has changed, but we just got to be vigilant. We got to protect ourselves and depend on our own self and our community to take care of ourselves. And lastly, because of my incident in the Kansas public school system, our parents got upset about it, and then they went and my grandmother lived in Topeka, Kansas, and they filed suit against with others, with the help of the NAACP, against what they were doing in terms of segregation in school. It didn't start in Virginia. It didn't start in Mississippi. It started in Topeka, Kansas. So parents got upset. They were soldiers, and they were people who worked for the military, and they just had enough, and we did quite well.
Daun?
Well, yes, of course, I've had the experience. I think every Black person has, who has been working to enter into whatever profession and field or passion that they have. And it is challenging. And, it's just how right now the world is. I don't see it changing anytime soon. My parents told me, yes, you had to do better, be better. You couldn't bring home anything less than a C. When I bought the C in the house, anyway. So that's how I just had to roll through school. It was interesting when you laughing at me, but yeah, we couldn't do anything less. And my first experience when integration occurred, and I was in elementary school, but I really felt it from a teacher, understood it more from a teacher when I got to Norview Middle. And white social studies teacher didn't want to teach Black students. So she changed her method, and all she would do, she would fill up the blackboards with notes, and we just took notes. She didn't talk to us at all, never spoke to us.
Wow.
And we just had to write those notes every day. And so, you just have to learn how to go with the flow, and it makes you stronger. It makes you wiser. We just need our young people to do it sooner rather than later, and we need to teach them that and help them understand that they have to know, do, and be better. And I really don't think it's knowing, doing, and being better. It's just we have to understand our surroundings. Because as Will said, people know, you got some smart white people, you got some not so smart white people. But people learn how to manage in their day-to-day in whatever it is they do. It's the same way with African Americans in all races.
And, I can hear some people out in the audience probably saying to themselves, well, all their parents were trying to do was to draw excellence out of each of us, because I had the same experience. But there was an extra layer of pressure there. Would you agree with that statement, Daun?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because my parents were Black.
Yeah.
And, they were where, they had the segregated everything. They dealt with the segregated everything. And they wanted us to, one, have better, feel better about ourselves. And oftentimes, my parents tried to protect so that we didn't see the separation. Church Street was our home. That's where we went because that's where we could go and feel free. Didn't go to too many other places. I'll just tell this little story. Went to Hoffarmer's to get my shoes because they would sell to Black children in Hoffarmer's downtown on Grandeur Street. But they were one of the few stores that would. And when I went to get my first credit card as I got older, my mom said, well, apply to Hoffarmer's business there. And they refused me a credit card. She went down there and read the Mariah Act, and I got my credit card just to begin to develop my credit because, that's one of the things that we have to do. But, yes, it's about relationships, but yes, it's about our parents wanting more for us and their experiences and trying to help us not have those experiences. And it is hard today to see that now we have to have our children, one, make sure they realize all of those experiences because we tried to raise them in a multinational, international community, so they didn't have this feel, but now it is there and it is prevalent, and we have to teach them how to fight it because we do have to fight for our democracy.
Yeah, so on a national level, as we see two very high-profile instances in January and in February where Black people are being considered for very high-profile positions, and there's been an issue. So let's start with the Supreme Court. So earlier this month, Justice Stephen Breyer announced his retirement. President Biden promised to fulfill his campaign pledge to nominate the first Black woman to the Supreme Court. Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas denounced Biden's promise as offensive, while GOP Senator Roger Wicker of Mississippi preemptively dismissed the prospective nominee as benefiting from a racially discriminatory quota. On Fox News, Sean Hannity slammed Biden's pledge as, quote, identity politics on steroids. Now, this all despite the fact that the candidates under consideration are highly accomplished, have Ivy League degrees, they are experienced judges, they have Supreme Court clerkships, and received high ratings from national and state bar associations. all that, still one prominent Republican framed Biden's decision as a, quote, racially discriminatory appointment of an unqualified justice who doesn't know a law book from a J. Crew catalog. That statement came from Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. Now, we didn't hear all this consternation when former President Trump appointed Amy Coney Barrett, nor when Ronald Reagan appointed Sandra Day O'Connor. Will, why the difference?
Well, I think, it's a product of the society that we are in. Racism is in the DNA of America from the very beginning. But then you also have this politics going on, this game of us against them. And so a lot of the politicians, what they will do is they know the racial undercurrent is there. So because it's us against them, if I can gain a position as a GOP against the Democrats, I will use this divisive issue to my advantage, to essentially pimp. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's really just pimping the racial undertones that's very destructive to this nation. So they know better. I mean, when Hannity makes a statement like that, or any of them make statements like that, half of the time, they know better. It's not like they are ideologically, they really believe that nonsense. But they say it because they know that they can pimp it. That undercurrent is there in the nation among certain categories of voters. And so they use that as a divisive issue because it's us against them. And the shame of it is that it's really destructive to the nation. But clearly, if they know better, and this is what they're doing, then they really don't care. It's really just about if it works for my advantage, if it keeps me in office, if it drives ratings, I'll do it. Doesn't matter what the collateral damage is. And they are basically just pimping white voters who want to believe that nonsense, and it's actually absolutely nonsense.
Veleka, as you hear that and hear those types of comments, and you think about the black women who are being considered for the Supreme Court nomination, what goes through your mind? As a leader, in a different arena, but still probably have faced some of those same types of comments or thoughts.
It's extremely alarming, and I think that everyone would agree that we should have a representation. If we're going to have a fair shake at things, that we need to have representation of democracy should affect its people, right? But it has limits. It has limits. And so I would truly agree with Will in that it's the dog whistle, but everybody can hear it. And, race is a social construct. We did not create this. And we know that even though we have had our rights, women's rights, the LGBTQ community rights, blacks' rights tried before the Supreme Court, we still face conditions where we still don't have equal protections under the law and equal opportunity. One of the things that I'm always reminded of is that even though people may say, well, we've provided an opportunity for you, those opportunities come with extreme limits. They come with extreme scrutiny. They come with more scrutiny. And so I would definitely agree with Will that it is something that was elevated during this time, just as the whole tip line, creating another opportunity for divisiveness. And, when we think about that word divisive, it means divide. And our history has been divided. However, we have been able to have conversations about our race, conversations about many things that have been polarizing. And so it's just a way for people to continue to not be able to examine themselves and who they are and how they can be affected by what's going on, in the world. And I feel that they truly get scared in the fact that something is going to be taken away from them. And I feel that it is mathematically impossible to make up what we're embarking upon 402 years, 403 years. It's mathematically impossible for us to take away everything that they have been afforded.
Daun, when you hear these types of comments, where's your head?
It's always been this way. There are always some of them, because I don't want to put all in one category, because you can't. But some are going to be that way because that's the way that they have learned to fight and stay in control and in power. And so that is why they are doing what they're doing. I will say, and adding to Will's comment when he said that they were pimping white voters, they're pimping all voters, because voters of other races are falling into the same little box, because, a lot of it has to do with knowing who you are and where you've come from and your own self-esteem and who you are. And so we're easily swayed by what others say or what you hear, and you're at some point don't have the wherewithal or don't take the time to research and compare what you're hearing and saying, then you'll go with the flow wherever it takes you. And so a lot of people are being pimped by this conversation, and we have to create a better conversation and message. But as a Black woman, I won't say the word, but I was very angry when I heard the comments from others about all of the nominees. Now, they are good women in their own right who have worked very hard to be on the list. So whoever is selected, I'm going to be okay with no matter what. Because, we even in our own community will say, well, some are more moderate than others. Some are more extreme than others. So, we have a long way to go. But whoever he picks, it'll be a Black woman who will bring a different voice, because they have a different lived experience that they will be able to bring to interject into the court. And if I can take this point of personal privilege, just to say that two of them were born and raised in Norfolk. And I just want to give a shout out to them, Jackson Akawumi and then Wilhelmina Wright. And so, their families are still here. Their mothers and mother and father are still here. Wow. And I'm just proud that they're on the list. I had to get that in.
Yeah, thank you for getting that in. I appreciate that. Bill, I saw you sitting there nodding your head as people were speaking. What are you thinking?
Well, it takes a great woman to calm a Black man down, and that's why I like Daun Hester. She and I have been friends for so long. We agree on 90% of the things, and 10% we do, but we always come to a reconciliation. But she's right on point. All of these African-American ladies are absolutely qualified. The young lady, Jackson lady, I know her parents very well. She's well-schooled in the best schools in the world, and so with the other young lady. I pray that both of them get selected, and then we'll have to flip a coin or something. So that's not even on my game plan. What I think, and what I think we get caught up in, to my good friend Wil LaVeist, is we fall into these distractions and diversions. Where were you, Black people, when two Black women were going to run for governor of Virginia? Where were you then? Two highly qualified young ladies. They would have been the first Black elected governor of any state in this country. Y'all went with a white guy who had already been there. And please, Ms. Gatling, give me a break, please. Please. ODU is over there perpetrating being an MSI, Minority Serving Institution, which is taking resources from HBCUs. Then you go get a Black president to try to, leverage that. That's okay. That's fine. But let's talk about the realities. You don't fund Norfolk State. You don't fund Virginia State. You say that Hampton University is a private school because the Klan and everybody else would not allow us to open up in 1868. Please, stop taking from us. Stop stealing our culture and using it against us because you're taking our money. And it's just, please give me a break. And again on that, but I'm just saying, it's a distraction. You have enough votes for these two women or to have consideration. Let's call and write the legislators in Washington, D.C. and tell them to vote them in.
Okay, Veleka, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to Bill in just a second. But if you're just joining us, we're talking current events with the Another View Roundtable. Norfolk City Treasurer Daun Hester, Director of Diversity and Assistant Professor at ODU, Dr. Veleka Gatling, author, journalist, political pundit, and media consultant, Dr. Wil LaVeist, and community activist, Bill Thomas. Okay, Veleka, go. Get him.
As a former elementary school principal and also director of special education at gifted programs locally, I truly understand the unfunding of public education, of education in and of itself, and the inequitableness of it. And so it's one of the things that I've been working to do as I've been here at the university about 3 years. I've served as an adjunct as we look at really assessing our current reality and moving away from those things that do create a distraction, as you mentioned, to the real work. And it takes, as Daun said so eloquently, one conversation at a time. One of the things, and even as I look at the information that we have that comes out all the time as it relates to achievement gaps. We don't have an achievement gap. We have an accountability gap. And so there's pockets of greatness wherever you are, but how are we truly operationalizing and being accountable for what it is that we say that we're going to do? How are, even when we get that seat at the table, or we have a policy, or we have a practice, are we holding each other, as you said, Bill, to accountable for elevating causes, elevating our work, whether it is on our side as African Americans or those who are serving as allies with us as African Americans? How are we holding them accountable? And I see it on both sides. I see it on the side of everyone who, I've had this opportunity, so now I am not going to pull the rest of my community along with me, and I'm not going to hold people accountable for what it is that needs to take place. And so, I really if I wasn't doing this job, the job that I would go back to being is a principal, because one of the things that I think is most important is to build capacity. One of the things that happens in improvement efforts is we throw money at things, but we never build capacity. So we never take the time to have one conversation after another conversation. And so when we talk about funding, special education and working with marginalized populations has been one of those things that has not been fully funded forever. But we continue to throw things to the wall like spaghetti, hoping that it will stick. And so I truly understand and realize that there are inequities. And I'll give an example. So when a student goes to a private school for education, which is certainly their parents' right, if they are having some difficulty with special education, if they're having some difficulty with reading, they can avail themselves to go to the public school to get that support. Right? And so there are varying opinions about that. But if we would fully fund education in the manner that it was constitutionally intended to, we wouldn't have to throw things at the wall and hope that they stick.
Bill?
Distraction. The point is, we did not support those two qualified black ladies running for governor. Black people, we did not do that. For whatever reason it is, and I understand what you're saying, but in 244 years, there hasn't been a governor that's black. It's not about all these other issues. It's about money. It's about currency. We're not getting the kinds of money to support our institutions and to build up our infrastructure. But at the same time, other organizations like San Diego State or University of Hawaii, which called themselves a minority institute, I think Yale University even called themselves an MSI. That is a diversion of our funds. We're taking money. You're taking money as an example. You're taking money from Hampton University and then saying that we don't deserve to get our own money back, that we're paying taxes to go to ODU, to University of Virginia with their $1 billion endowment, and you're using my money to compete and cut my throat. I don't believe it's a distraction. It's divergence, and it's got to be dealt with.
Okay, hang on a second. Let me get Wil into the conversation. Go ahead, Wil.
Well, as a as a graduate of ODU, who's got my doctorate there, I'll re-distract us back to the original topic, which was to the black woman being on the Supreme Court. And Barbara, you know how I feel about black women. I'm engaged to a phenomenal black woman. I think that black women are women.
You're engaged to a phenomenal black woman.
But that's what I thought that's what I thought I did say. Yeah, because I can't handle more than
you're going to get in trouble.
But I absolutely believe, again, when you look at the journey that black women have gone through in this country, being second only to maybe our Native American sisters of being attacked, unprotected. When you look at right now, black women have the highest level of education among any group. Black women are phenomenal in their ability to be able to persevere and to shape this nation. So to have that voice on the high court would be very important and very valuable for our country. And I think that since the beginning of the nation, we've had affirmative action for white males on the Supreme Court. We've had quotas for white males on the Supreme Court. I mean, so why, again, if we, to Bill's point, to the whole panel's point about being distracted, is look at what is going to be best for our nation. And it's best for our nation on the high court to have a variety of life experiences to be able to address the key needs, the key laws concerning our people. And again, we've had affirmative action for white males on the Supreme Court since the very beginning, audience. So what is the problem? We're actually helping to improve, the voices on the Supreme Court. And I can think of no group of women to have on that court than a phenomenal black woman. Absolutely.
So keeping in the spirit of making sure that the interviews that these black women go through are not considered sham interviews, let me segue into what happened with also on the first day of Black History Month. Former Miami Dolphins coach Brian Flores sues the NFL, the Miami Dolphins, the Denver Broncos, and the New York Giants, alleging a variety of discriminatory and illegal practices, the most prominent issue being sham interviews to fulfill the NFL's Rooney Rule, which requires teams to interview minority candidates for open general manager or head coach openings. Now, Flores was fired by the Dolphins in January, despite the Dolphins' first back-to-back winning season since 2003. Have any of you experienced a check-the-box interview, Dawn?
Yeah. I'm going to go back and say, same way I started the other one. Of course. It's all the same. It's our lived experience for most of us who have been trying to move up the ladder. As an educator in Norfolk Public Schools, get the master's. You want to, go into administration. You want to be an assistant principal or work downtown. And they interview you. And you hear nothing, you think, and you go through so many interviews, you hear nothing, you get nothing. And you're working hard, you deserve it. You work harder than some of the others who have gotten it, and you know that, you see that, you hear that, you're told that. So, yes, it is our experience. But I guess what, I don't know, this won't sound kind of not nice, arrogant maybe, but look at me now. But look at me now is because there were other African Americans who saw that I was working to try to advance and help me maneuver in a system that they had learned how to work. And so I never got a position in Norfolk Public Schools as an assistant principal. An opportunity came up. An African-American who was in NPS administration advised me of it, supported me in it, and then I became the principal of a regional alternative school. I worked there for 2 years, and then NPS asked me to come back as an assistant principal. Well, dang, why didn't they see it before? So that's all I'm saying. Everybody on this call, and I don't know everybody's lived experience, but has had that experience.
Yeah.
You know, it is who we are. It is what we do. I am glad he filed the lawsuit. You know, it's going to take a lot for it to change. And, you know, you can't ask the brothers not to watch football because that's where it hits the pocket. You know, I'm going with Bill on this one. You hit people's pockets. So like all of these, anyway, I'm not going to go there. I'll let others talk. But yes, I have had that experience, and I'm sure that I will have it again.
Bill, can you legislate or can you put into law the attitude that you need to take people seriously when they are interviewing for a position? In other words, can the Rooney Rule ever actually work, or will it always be a check the box endeavor? Bill?
It will never work. It will never work. It never has worked. And again, my mentor and friend, Daun Hester, is a perfect textbook case of a person who worked diligently in the Norfolk public school system, took whatever challenge she took it to the highest degree, and moved forward and not be stood back. So she must have went to Hampton University, because the president of the Baltimore Ravens, Sashi Brown, is now president of the Baltimore team. And Rashida Jones went to Hampton University, and she's president of MSNBC. You got to stop looking back and look forward. Stop waiting for the white people and the elected white people and some of us black people to do what we have to do for ourselves. We have to work together. You want these people to be the next Supreme Court jurors? Then write your senator, write your congressman, write the president, write the guy in Louisiana, and tell him 60% of the population in L.A. Louisiana has got to be African American or close to it. We have to do and stop looking back, taking distractions away from us. Do like my good friend Daun Hester did. Just keep moving on up. She moved on up. I'm just not saying it to say it, because I saw her in the field trying to help people that needed the help. She did it. She did what she had to do. But she kept moving up. The General Assembly, now she got even a better position to try to help people. But no, Barbara, you can't legislate white people to like black people. Haven't done it in 400 years, and it ain't going to happen in another 300 or 500 years, maybe.
Yeah. Well, what do you think? I mean, you know, Flores stepped out there. It's a class action suit. I think I've heard a couple of people who may have either joined or are thinking about joining the suit. But, you know, is he going to be a lone wolf?
No, I don't think so. I think what he's doing is very important. And it hit close to home for me, because Flores he and I actually grew up in the same neighborhood in Brooklyn. It's Brownsville, Brooklyn. He's younger than me, but we grew up in the same neighborhood. He's from Honduran parents. I'm from Dominican parents, so we both had that Afro-Dominican thing going on. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's very important what he's doing, because he was a successful coach. I mean, he is as an assistant, he's won Super Bowls, so he knows what it takes to get to the ultimate prize in his profession. And as a coach, he was only given 2 seasons, and he's had sort of a 50-50 record. And usually it requires, to turn around a losing team, it requires at least 3 years and more likely 4 years to get that done. So, again, you're talking about somebody who has a record of success, and then it's just being subjected to check-off interviews. I mean, come on. And one of the things that bothers me about this situation is that we almost initially go into this default posture of he's never going to be allowed to coach in the NFL again. He's never going. Mm-hmm. And it's like, why are we going to that default posture if you are unveiling a wrong in society? Shouldn't you be rewarded? Shouldn't you be celebrated? If what he shows, if what he's saying shows to be true, then shouldn't he be recognized and shouldn't he be praised for having the courage to bring this forward? No, we go to the default of he's never going to coach again. So we're essentially saying that when you see wrong, you should be quiet about it, because then you won't be allowed to exercise your profession. I think that is absolutely wrong. We got to take into account, just like all of us know some of the inside things that go on in our industries. Mm-hmm. If this man stepped out on faith like this, you know, and he has the background that he has, you know that some of the things he's talking about had to have been true. And if they are wrong, then whether it's black, white, whoever, it's an injustice. Mm-hmm. And it should be It should be uprooted. It should be eliminated because we're all fighting for a level playing field. That's what the whole Southern Freedom Movement was about. That's what the whole abolition of slavery is about equal access and equal opportunity, not accepting that you're going to have one group of people who are always going to be privileged over another group of people and just sort of accept your standing in life. So what he's doing is very important. And if you saw what he said, he was driven by his children. He's like, I don't want my children to have to go through this. Come on now. So some of you are saying this is how it's always been and we just got to deal with it. No. Injustice is injustice, and it should be uprooted and eliminated.
Bill,
Equal
I see
playing field. That's it.
I see Bill is about to pop over here. Veleka, I'm coming to you in a minute. But go ahead, Bill. What do you have to say?
It's really simple. I don't know. Will could probably let me know. What percent of the NFL is black players?
Oh, 70%. Yeah.
32 teams, only one black coach for a while. Now you got two black coaches.
Looking for reasons to get in. Why don't they get together, go to a financial advisor or some other advising, collect their own money in their own pension fund and control it, and they get together and buy a football team and own it. We don't want to own. We don't know how. I'm going to let you go. I think we should own our own team. I saw that man sitting up there with his 5,000 Neiman Marcus jacket on because I've seen it. And you're going to tell me he doesn't have everything he wants? I'm telling you, it doesn't get. The coach from Pittsburgh has been there forever. But win, baby, win is the notion, but also win by investing in your own self.
Go ahead, Daun.
Just wait for the white man to do it, Will. They're not going to do it.
Go ahead, Daun.
Okay, and I know Veleka's getting here.
Yes, I got to get her in.
I just had to respond to that. And okay, Bill, yes, we do need to put our money together. But the rule, the system says that 26 of those 32 have to let us in. So, yeah, I would put my money in, yes. I would put the owners have to say that we can buy a team.
Right.
So I would put my money in somewhere, put out the GoFundMe or whatever it is. I'll put my money in for my little 1%. I don't have a lot, but I would do that. But if 26 of 32 have to say yes, even that's not going to work. So that's certainly one of the things that has to change, and that's not even being really talked about
yet. Go ahead, Veleka. I know you've been patiently waiting.
Well, it leads me to think about performative equity and just performative mission statements. When I think about that $250 million that the NFL gave right shortly after George Floyd, right, for social justice programs, but it was like, and so now what? Again, it goes back to that accountability gap. What did that mean? What did that mean other than creating some programs and doing some commercials? What did that truly mean? What did that $250 million mean?
Yeah, it goes beyond the PR.
Money.
So in other words, beyond the PR. I want to get this other topic in, guys, because we only got 10 minutes left. And, that's what happens when I start talking to you all. Time flies by like crazy. But Governor Glenn Youngkin, he set up an email tip line where parents can send concerns and complaints about violations of students' fundamental rights and any divisive practices in schools. Now, his office says the emails are working papers and correspondence of the office of the governor and will not be made public. I also want to point out, we got an email from one of our listeners, Marion Norris. She said that she's written the governor several times, and she asked these questions. What is considered divisive teaching? Who determines that it's divisive? What are the consequences of teaching divisive subject matters? Is it a verbal warning, a written warning, a suspension, or a termination? And who will decide what the consequences should be? And she has yet to hear back from the governor's office. So what do you think about this tip line? And especially Daun and Veleka, since you guys are in education, I'm wondering how you would feel if you were in the classroom right now in the public schools. Would you be worried about people writing the tip line about you?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Because, as you know, I was there a long time, and if I was there today, and, people say teaching today is different, and it is. Expectations of teachers are horrible, but they're doing the best they can. And one child can go home and say one thing to a parent that totally is off topic, off base. And if it's not recorded, you've got one against the other. And where does the teacher end up? I don't tell people to go into teaching nowadays until they start paying teachers six figures. And I'm saying this to the general public. It is not a place to be because it's not a good space. But we need teachers. We need good educators of all races, male and female. But it's not a good space to be. This is terrible. This tip line is terrible, especially when it's not going to be made public.
Yeah.
You can use that for anything. And so I encourage all taxpayers, all listeners, send something to the tip line about a teacher. Put the teacher's name in there and say how good they are. And because whenever it's public, because all the press and everybody else is going to be trying to get the information, you want to have as much good stuff in there as you can get.
Yeah. Veleka?
That's exactly, and we've had actually churches and organizations to work together to help those folks who do want to write encouraging things. And I would be, I think about my colleagues now that I counsel and talk to them and try to keep them encouraged. And they say, Gatling, we know that you would have tried to help us to just kind of keep our morale up as we go through this. And so even those who have wanted to be allies in this work who may not look like us, they're like, we really were trying to learn history. We have been really trying to make sure that we portray things accurately, and we're just afraid that this one misstep is going to mean, our career. And so, no one has been able to define what divisive is and what it looks like and what it sounds like. We teach our students literary concepts to compare and contrast, to infer, to make inferences, to draw conclusions. And so when you're talking about history, that's what we're asking them to do. And so what about that is divisive, right? What about that is divisive? And so I would be very upset. We have students who now just record whatever they want to record, whether they good, bad, or indifferent, just to demonstrate that this one thing is said off kilter. I'll give a really quick example. When I worked in one of our southern cities, a teacher said, we're going down a little bit ways down to Suffolk and Franklin to see where our jeans came from. Right? She meant, and she said, what we wear. But the student went back and said that the teacher was taking them down to Suffolk to the cotton fields to see where their jeans, Jenes, came from. And, and so, trying to reroute that conversation and bringing students in and saying, well, what did the teacher say? Exactly. That one student switched that whole conversation around just because she did not agree with what the teacher had a discipline concern earlier. And so oftentimes it's not even about that one thing that happens right then. It's about something that happened last week. I'm mad with you, and I'm going to try to get you back.
Yeah. Bill, what do you think about this tip line?
I don't know what to say. I really, truly don't know what to say. I mean, we're lost in the wilderness because we don't want to accept reality. There is no tip line. I think that is good to bring attention to it, Daun Hester.
What do you mean there's no
tip?
Wait, stop. What do you mean there's no tip line?
There is no official tip line in the governor's office.
The governor put the website out, which I am not going to repeat what it is right now, but the governor issued a email address for parents.
Now?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I'll stand corrected. Dawn is shaking her head. Then I will move on.
It's up.
I will stand corrected. There is an official tip line where people can call in and complain on teachers.
They can send an email. They can send an email to the governor to talk about anything that parents feel violates their fundamental rights.
You didn't know that? Bill didn't know that? That sounds like a distraction, a distracted move. You can't tell me you didn't know You didn't know that. That's been all over. I'm in Philadelphia, and I knew that. That's been all over national TV. Barbara, it's another example of doing something.
Okay.
This is tip
All right,
line
one
is
at a
another
time.
example. This tip line is another
Wait a minute. Hold on,
example.
guys.
Oh,
Hold on. Let me let Bill finish his thought, and then Will, I'm coming to you.
Really?
Go ahead, Bill. Finish your thought.
Investment. My thought is very simple. First of all, I think we should have labs in charter schools so people will have choice. That's number one. Number two is when you are denied opportunities like access to health care, the young lady mentioned $250 million. Instead of waiting for the white man to help us raise $250 million to solve cancer issues, Hampton University, under Dr. William R. Harvey's leadership, went out and raised our $250 million, opened it up, and have saved over 3,500 lives. My point is, we've got to take things in our own hands. I'll let it go with that.
Okay, Will. And then if this tip line is available, how do we take those things in our own hands? Other than to do what John Legend said, which was to ask how come Black history is not being taught.
I think you do what Don said.
I'm still a little befuddled that Bill didn't know that this tip line exists. But Bill's my friend.
Right, Bill.
I like Bill, so I'm not going.
Bill,
I'm not going
speak.
to call him out. Again, I think it's another example of doing something to appear as though you are really doing something that matters. Right. And it's again, we started talking about pimping. This is another example of politicians doing the pimping. Mm-hmm. And the problem is that it's undermining and eroding our educational system, our trust in education, and our trust in institutions. And if we continue to erode our trust in institutions, our trust in the law, we are going to be a society that is just falling apart at the seams. And that's what is so upsetting, is that our leaders don't seem to care about the collateral damage. They just see it as, this is what I'm going to do in a moment for my objective, because we all know that Youngkin has aspirations for the presidency. Bill has aspirations that make that happen and go to Washington. They're not concerned about the collateral damage that happens along the way. Mm-hmm. And this is what people need to be paying attention to. So parents have a system to address teachers that may not be that they're concerned about. I used to cover education. As far as I remember, that's handled at the local level. How does sending a tip line to a state institution going to impact education at the local level in Norfolk? What are you talking about?
Right.
Come on now. Come on. Stop the distraction.
You know what? And with that, we're going to have to stop the conversation because we are out of time. Dr. Veleka Gatling, Dr. Wil LaVeist, Daun Hester, and Bill Thomas, as always, thank you so much for joining me today on the Another View Roundtable. And thank you for spending an hour of your life with us here at Another View. Now, you can hear this show and all of our shows on our website, anotherviewradio.org. And don't forget to sign up for our eView newsletter. It's a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. Now, you still have time to sign up for tonight's virtual Race Let's Talk About It town hall on closing the education gap between Black and white students. You may be surprised at the perspectives of our panel this evening. Go to whro.org/events to register and receive the link to the program. It's tonight from 6:30 to 8 p.m., and I look forward to a great conversation. Next week on Another View, one woman's story of how school literally saved her life and how she's paying it forward. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Todd Washburn is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Hope to see you this evening for our virtual town hall. In the meantime, stay positive, test negative, and join us again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Thomas Nelson Community College, now becoming Virginia Peninsula Community College, the first choice whether starting your bachelor's degree or advancing your career. More at tncc.edu.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.